Dayton, Ohio. First, the Ku Klux Klan came to town. 2 days later, tornadoes destroyed hundreds of homes and businesses and obliterated entire neighborhoods in and around the western Ohio city of Dayton. Then this past weekend, a gunman stormed onto a crowded sidewalk in the entertainment district, an area of town typically swarming with revelers who stay until the bars close in the early morning, and fired at least 41 shots into the crowd, killing 9 people before he was shot dead by the authorities. Something just keeps happening, said Amanda Hensler, an owner of a store, Hart Mercantile, that is across the street from where the massacre took place. The day after the mass shooting, the second within a 13-hour period in America, residents flocked to Ms. Hensler's store to buy T-shirts that read Dayton Strong, which has become something of a motto for this grieving, shocked city. The customers knew that the store would have them in stock because they had been printed 3 months earlier, after the catastrophic tornado outbreak. Indeed, Dayton has been through a brutal 6-month stretch, even before the Klan held a rally at the city's downtown courthouse square. Since the beginning of February, the city has also endured a large infrastructure failure and federal indictments at City Hall. Seeing the city through all this has been Mayor Nan Whaley, 43, a blunt and outspoken second-term Democrat who is believed to have political ambitions beyond Dayton, a city with about 140,000 residents who have endured more trauma this year than many larger cities experience in a decade. Since Sunday morning, when she first appeared before a throng of reporters, Ms. Whaley has found herself in the biggest moment of her political life, and at the worst moment of her city's modern history. She has been a whirlwind presence across the city, too, talking to victims' families, briefing reporters, and working with the state's Republican governor to form bipartisan alliances on gun policy. And then there is the Twitter feud with the President of the United States. She's going to be governor one day, said Senator Sherrod Brown, a fellow Democrat who represents Ohio. Mr. Brown was not speaking of Ms. Whaley's presence solely over the past few days, but over the whole, bad year. There have been these 3 big things, 2 of them tragic, he said, and then you put all that in the context of the past 30 years, with globalization. It's sort of been one thing after another. In February, after a water line break left tens of thousands without water, but before the federal indictments of current and former local officials, Montgomery County granted the Klan a permit to come to town on the last weekend in May. Afterward, the city sued, arguing that a paramilitary-style rally would present serious public safety concerns. Officials ultimately agreed to a consent decree that limited the weapons the marchers could carry. The rally cost the city at least $600,000 in security costs, but in the end, only 9 Klansmen showed up. They were hemmed in by more than 700 law enforcement officers and were easily drowned out by the shouts and chants of the hundreds who had come out to oppose the march. When the rally ended uneventfully, it seemed that the potential for serious violence had passed. 2 days later, the tornadoes hit. It was almost as if it was a metaphor of a divine nature, said the Reverend Renard Allen Jr., the pastor of St. Luke Missionary Baptist Church, one of the larger churches in Dayton. That tornado outbreak on May 27 devastated suburban communities and littered city streets with fallen trees. For weeks, residents lifted branches off strangers' homes and served meals at temporary shelters. I think the tornadoes really brought the community together in a really bizarro kind of way, said Shelley Dickstein, Daytona's city manager. We were very much still in the process of healing from the tornadoes when the mass shooting hit. When Ms. Whaley was elected to the city commission at age 29, Dayton, like much of the industrial Midwest, was struggling to recover from a prolonged decline. Over the decades, factories and Fortune 500 companies had left Dayton. So had nearly half its residents. But during her nearly 6 years as mayor, Ms. Whaley has presided over a downtown revival. Buildings that had long been vacant are being redeveloped. Some neighborhoods that had been emptied are seeing an infusion of new residents. And during this time, Ms. Whaley has steadily built a larger profile for herself, taking on a leadership role in a national Mayorsa organization, speaking openly about the toll of the opioid crisis on the state and briefly seeking the Democratic nomination for governor. People see that she is striving for a higher political level, said Gary Lightsell, her predecessor as mayor, who said Ms. Whalia's ambitions have been seen by some as overshadowing the concerns in some neighborhoods. I don't dislike her, he added. But, I do not trust her. Still, among mayors across the country, Ms. Whaley has become something of a celebrity. She is just so smart, she is so accessible, she is so real. Like, what you see is what you get, said Christine Hunchofsky, the mayor of Parkland, Florida, which endured the unwelcome spotlight last year when 17 people, including 14 students, were killed at a high school in her city. She is definitely someone other mayors look up to and learn from. But on Sunday, it was Ms. Hunchofsky who had guidance for Ms. Whaley. While Dayton police officers were still outside Ned Pepper's bar, collecting evidence and methodically combing the vast crime scene, Ms. Hunchofsky texted words of encouragement. Buddy Dyer, the mayor of Orlando, Florida, the site of the Pulse nightclub shooting in June 2016 that left 49 people dead and more than 50 wounded, called Ms. Whaley. So did Bill Peduto, the mayor of Pittsburgh, where 11 people were killed in a synagogue last October. At a vigil on Sunday, Ms. Whaley talked about joining an unfortunate fraternity of mayors whose cities had been the site of mass shootings. The crowd roared with approval for the mayor. A moment later, they drowned out the Republican governor, Mike DeWine, imploring him to push for tighter gun laws with chance of do something. Ms. Whaley said in an interview that she was not sure how Mr. DeWine would react. After that I said to him, I am sorry, people are just wound up, she recalled. He said to me, Nan, thoughta as part of the job. Since that vigil, the two have spoken every day, she said. They have effusively complimented each other at news conferences and tried to put on a bipartisan front for gun control proposals. She's done a great job, said Mr. DeWine, who grew up about 20 miles from Dayton. Communities always look for leadership from the mayor when you have a crisis, and she's stepped up. On Tuesday, Mr. DeWine proposed expanding background checks and enacting a version of a red flag law that would allow guns to be seized from people deemed dangerous. But feisty exchanges between Ms. Whaley and President Trump have not made a bipartisan alliance very easy. A red flag gun laws arena airtight. But officials say the AVE saved lives. Before Mr. Trump visited the city on Wednesday, Ms. Whaley said she planned to tell him how unhelpful he has been on gun policy. She also would needle him about mistaking Dayton for Toledo in a national address on Monday about the shooting. After leaving Dayton on Wednesday, Mr. Trump said on Twitter that Ms. Whaley's characterization of his visit was a fraud. For her part, Ms. Whaley said on Thursday that she was relieved he had left town. We've got to get to the work of grieving and bringing our community together, she said. All of the national drama about what President Trump is thinking and what he is not thinking, is not helpful to our community. And there has been no shortage of help needed in Dayton. On Thursday, for Ms. Whaley, this meant a news conference at a Children's hospital, lunch with the governor and her regular appointment with a counselor, which she highlighted on Twitter to emphasize the importance of mental health. Still, officials in Dayton were looking ahead. Plans were already underway, the city manager said, for a New Year's Eve party to bid good riddance to 2019.